but not quite, as the Perth Glory men fall to a 94th minute Puskas nomination. Incomings and outgoing. Exactly what does January window look like? And Glory starlet off to the English Championship. Welcome to the podcast with more flair than a casual stroll down Pearce Street. This is the Far Post Perth, presented by ID Athletic. Don't forget, now's the time to book your orders for 2025. Visit 84 House Street in Osborne Park or idathletic.com. Also, big thank you, as always, to Dino Djurbic and the team at Trio Homes. If you're looking to build, redesign or renovate, visit triohomes.com.au. Back after the holidays, I'm feeling as fresh as I did after about 15 plates of Christmas ham. Plenty of football to chat about. A-League Women's. January windows, maybe a little bit of EPL as Big Ange comes under a little bit more pressure. With me on this episode, Neil Sherwin. Welcome back, mate.
Yeah, good to be back for another year.
Beautiful stuff, mate. Welcome also to James Renton.
Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, no worries at all, boys. Hey, let's get started the way we always do. It is the time that we get a little bit off our chest, maybe for the new year, maybe what's happened over the holidays, whatever it might be, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm going to start with you, James. What was good, mate, over the Christmas holidays or the last week?
Well, I'll narrow it to what we saw over the last week or so, but I think for me it's quite clear. For as much as it hurt, the Jordan Lauton bicycle kick. When you're talking about young players making the step up this season in the A-League, I think we've seen it. I think we saw quite a few young players get on the score sheet over the most recent game week. And, for someone like Lauton to come off the bench in a critical moment and pull that off at the time that he did, extremely good technique, extremely confident. And, it just shows that we've got, as a footballing nation with the young people that we've got coming through, some bright talent. And I thought that was, summarised quite well by Alan Stajic after the Melbourne Victory Western Sydney game.
I'm going to go next with my good because I'm going to segue that a little bit. And that was exactly my good, was Stag's comments. And I think we get a little bit chicken little about things and about the state of the league. And there's some very, very bright sparks at times, even in Perth. We've seen the likes of, Quiet and Go. We've seen Adriana Labib, who's come into his own and probably made that centre-back position his own spot. But, I mean, just if you were to go around the league and have a little bit of a look at the names, Waddingham, Johanovic, Grimaldi, Boltic, Teague, Kaczarski, Goodwin, Ariel Piath, Vickery and Lauton were brilliant for Western United when they came on the weekend. Even if you wanted to go a little bit older, Nikola Milanovic is
so much talent.
And I think it's time that we probably started to praise that a little bit more. So, Alan Stajic was, and his comments certainly echoing that in my good. Neil, what was good, mate?
Yeah, I'll continue on the kids are all right theme. Melbourne City, they're in second. And it's a team squad without Matt Leckie, Jimmy Jago, Andreas Cohen. You've got Andrew Nabu, Jonathan Cohen missing, Marco Tilio. All these players would walk into most or all of the other teams in the league. Shifted a few players around. Nathaniel Atkinson, for example, is someone who's benefiting from playing in a different position right now. But what's really stood out is the way they've been able to get their young players to work together in a really exciting pressing system. They did it in strangled Wellington Phoenix at the weekend at Amy Park. I think the Phoenix had something silly like 20 touches in the opposition half in the first half. And City should have scored more, and their second goal was fantastic. And then just today, 2-0 win at home to Western United. The second goal again came from hunting in packs, a group of 5 or 6 players pressing, won the ball back high up the pitch, and within probably 5-6 seconds the ball was in the back of the net. To me, it's the blueprint for what other teams that want to play attacking, pressing football and rock and roll football, I suppose. It's the blueprint they should be looking at, and I include Perth Glory in that because we've seen it tried and failed here. But I don't really think there's an excuse for not getting players on the same wavelength, at least. Just because they might not have the quality, they should still be savvy enough to be able to follow a pattern and a system and play as a group, and that's exactly what Melbourne City have shown me in the last 2 games with their kids. So young players doing well across the board, I suppose.
Yep. No, absolutely. James, what was bad, mate, or what haven't you liked over the last couple of weeks?
Brisbane Roar. I've touched on them a number of times on the show and on other forums as well, but I just think that for a club like them to be in the position that they're in, I felt that the comments from Zach and Kaz were a little bit tone deaf in relation to Ruben Zadkovic, because I think, the fans at Brisbane are voting with their feet. And, I think for their game against the Jets today, I think they only had like 4,000. And, they had another disappointing performance, well, obviously most recently against the Jets, but beforehand they had a disappointing loss to the Mariners where they probably should have gone on to win the game. And, with Ruben saying, I need more windows, trust the process, etc. And I think at one point, it might have been on Aleague off air, I think Daniel McBreen said that, Ruben is one of like the best politicians in the sense that he will get a question and sort of swivel around the answer and not really answer the question. So I think, there's obviously been a lot of criticism from Brisbane fans towards their owners and their lack of ambition and their lack of financial muscle, so to speak, where they do enough just to keep the lights on. So for a club like Brisbane that, really make the National League what it is, they need to be doing a lot better on and off the pitch.
Neil, what was bad?
I was going to use Brisbane Roar both as a good because it's a team that's worse than Glory, and bad for the reasons James outlined. So I'm going to pivot on my bad, and I'll probably get some hate mail for it. But sure, whatever. Fickle football fans. So we had a really low attendance at the game at the weekend, and I know Glory are doing badly, and I know that there's other things on, but your football team's your football team, right? You go and support them, you go and watch them. People saying, I'd rather go watch the Scorchers because it's more fun. That to me is just a load of nonsense. I know cricket is big here, and I know that people are interested in the tests that are going on at the moment. I couldn't tell you what's been happening in them. But to me, if you're a dyed in the wool football fan, you go watch the football. You don't go and watch the cricket or the basketball and I went to watch the tennis last week, but if the tennis clashed with Glory, I would have gone and watched the football. That to me is just, it's football first, and anything else is way below it. And I get this, we're spoiled for choice here, but the issue I really have is just the bandwagoning. The Scorchers are playing well, so we'll go watch them. That just drives me insane. So it could be a cultural thing, from what happens here and where I grew up anyway, that in the depths of winter you went and stood on the terraces and watched your team no matter how bad they are. That's why like midweek football does. I'm worried about the attendance when we'll touch on the games coming up, but Glory have a Tuesday night game coming up next week. Like, who's going to go to that in Perth? You play a midweek game in the Championship or League One or that in the UK, and it is just, that is your culture. We just don't have that here. So yeah, I get it that's just the way things are, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. And I do think that football, if you're a football fan, football should be first. And I also understand that people just don't like Glory anymore because they've been burned too many times, and I suppose that is also understandable. And given what we've seen so far this season, there aren't many reasons, and I've called it out both here and in stuff I've written, that the club haven't given people reason to come back. But as a football fan watching that game at the weekend, it was devastating seeing that last minute goal. But yeah, I'd rather be there than at cricket or basketball or anything else, but that's just me.
I'm just going to throw this your way again.
Here comes the hate mail.
I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate because I'm picking up a little bit what you're putting down as well, and I feel like there's a little bit of a sense of entitlement that you only go and watch when your team's winning.
Yeah.
And I remind people that there's clubs around the world that probably haven't won a major trophy in their existence, or was it Hull City or something when they won a League Cup, hadn't won a major trophy in 100 years. I mean, that's...
Maybe it was Wigan, the FA Cup.
Or something like that. And then we go on, we haven't won anything in God knows how long. And I get it. I totally get that there's different cultures and everything else, but I'm a little bit on Neil's party when I think about it's your football team and you go and if you're a dyed-in-the-wool fan.
It ties in with the finals mentality that people love finals because it's the regular season doesn't matter. To me, every game should matter.
But even the experience of the Big Bash, though, if you compare that to the Scorchers match day experience in the sense of what you're seeing as a product compared to what you're seeing from the Glory as a product, let's say in terms of sporting quality, there's more quality that's being seen right now and over the last few years with the Scorchers compared to the Glory and even with the Wildcats at times. So what is the incentive for people to go and watch a team that doesn't have a lot of top player, so to speak.
My point is, you shouldn't need an incentive to go watch your football.
No, but we're not that. But we're not that sort of culture.
No,
though,
we're not.
As been discussed.
To me, like pyro at halftime, dancers, and
it's American
singing and all of that. I don't go into. That's not why I go to sport. I go to watch the teams. I go to watch the games. I go to see the patterns and the trends and everything else. And I get it. That's not for everybody, especially with kids. And they want to go and they want to see the fireworks and they want to see a team win and they want a crowd and all of that. Look, so I get it. It's just my personal opinion is it's football first, whether they're good, bad, ugly. It's football first. And after that, if Glory aren't playing, go watch whatever you like. But if you're a football fan, you go watch the football. That's just the way I
just in regards to the fireworks and everything else, don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge fan of the dancing girls or anything else like that, but I can see the need for some halftime entertainment, bit of something to do, whether it's a crossbar challenge, whether it's, it does keep people the kids
do love it, and you need to get that next generation of fan coming through,
or even the casual that might not have been to a game. Because if
the football's not good itself, then a casual or a young child can say, "Well, I enjoyed the experience of going to a Glory game," and then hopefully with the performances improving, then there's a greater incentive for more to come.
Fundamentally, though, if Glory are winning, you don't need halftime entertainment. You don't need.
No.
I get it. If they got their shit together and were top of the league and you went and you watched the game and you left because your team had won, nobody would care if there was somebody singing a song at half time. That stuff doesn't matter. That to me is and I've been to many Wildcats games, and the Wildcats games to me is an entertainment experience. It's not a sport. I don't care if they lose or not. I go and I enjoy it. If the Wildcats lose, I don't go home and go, oh damn, the Wildcats.
Well, that's how I feel about the Scorchers. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't even watch it, so I've no interest in it whatsoever. So whereas I'm coming back to the very start, because I know we'll move on, but my initial point was, as a football fan at that game on Saturday, I didn't give a shit about what had happened at halftime, before and after. What really hurt was that goal.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the difference. So hey, people are different, but you asked me for my bad, and that's my bad.
No, fair enough. I didn't really have a bad, boys, because I was a bit lazy to put one together. So I'm just going to merge this straight into my ugly, and I'm going to preface this by saying initially that I bloody love flares.
I
bloody love flares. I love the atmosphere that they bring. I love the excitement around them. I love the look in the stadium. I love all that stuff that, growing up in the terraces, I probably got involved with a little bit of naughty stuff as well, to be perfectly honest. But on a hot day, marching down the street, setting a tree on fire, I can't really there's no, as a 40-year-old man now, I love them, but I would never kind of partake, because it's just simply not worth getting arrested and into trouble and everything else and all the things that come with it. I guess the other side of the coin is, has this incident maybe kind of, and I think you guys will probably allude to the same thing, has it dented opportunities for safe smoking stands, for more of a police presence now and everything else like that? That's the other side of the coin. But I felt this was a topic that probably needed to be raised.
It's just unfortunate. And it sort of seems like, when it rains, it pours, both on and off the park. And I do love what flares can bring to the game. When you see the scenes, especially in South America and in Europe, it is unreal. And it's like, I would love to see something like that with our culture here in Australia. But, when incidents like these happen, it does dent any sort of possibility for future events like this at the game to continue, whether it is safe smoke or if we ever, for some reason, get to a point, as unlikely as it may be.
I don't think we ever will, because it's just against the cultural grain. Yeah. I don't think it's something that's being perceived as very, very foreign. There's probably even a little bit of a racial element that goes along with it. The Sheilas, Wogs and Poofters of bringing flares to the football again and everything else like that.
Well, I think flares are illegal, right? So
that's another side of it.
That's the fundamental point, right? If the lads are walking down there waving smoke, who cares?
Yeah.
But the point about, there is over-policing of football fans. And no arguments about that.
But does this perpetuate it?
That's where I'm going with it. So we're our own worst enemies at times, and this incident is I jokingly said all man yells at cloud, but it also does no favours to the people who are trying to create an atmosphere, because all it does is draw more negative connotations. You saw it on the WA Police's post on Facebook, all the comments about the people that were doing it. Walking around with balaclavas, it's daytime in Perth on a Friday in summer. I mean, you're not intimidating anybody. So, just relax it a little bit, and it should be. And I know people get excited, and it's a group mentality and playing up to the crowd. And I get that we were all young once, and that's how it works. But you are probably causing more damage and setting us backwards, as it were. I don't think we'll ever get flares, but I absolutely do think there is appetite or interest, especially with the new young people that are coming through. And don't get me wrong, I think on a match day they're doing a good job adding atmosphere to it and abusing the opposition players. I'm all for it.
I thought the atmosphere was brilliant.
So yeah, but there is appetite there for stuff like proper tifo, some smoke. Yep. I think safe smoke. I don't see why that isn't a thing. Why isn't that a thing at a lot of games? Purple and orange smoke coming out of the shed before a game as the teams walk out
would create a great atmosphere.
Class. I'd be all over that.
I can tell you from previous experiences and trying to get
when
stuff
you
like
snuck
this
them into the ground.
Well, but previous attempts to try and
initiate those discussions.
Initiate the discussions in trying to get tifos into the grounds in terms of trying to create some kind of atmosphere. The powers that be have shut those down.
Yes,
conversations down very, very quickly.
But because they're afraid it'll probably escalate into flares and throwing them onto the pitch and throwing things at players and all of that. And all these incidents do is lend weight to that argument. They might be completely wrong, but the evidence we're providing is there's lads walking down the street with flares. Well, surely their intention was to sneak them into the ground, right? That would be the logical next step, is that they're walking down the street, they let some off as they go on their march, and then they try to get a couple into the ground, like the Western Sydney fans did at Amy Park at the weekend. So between those two incidents in the space of a few days, we're back to talking about it's a topic that comes full circle, comes around every 12 months, right? So for me, these guys have just been stupid. I mean, yes, it's setting a bush on fire. It's against the law, right? So you take your scold and you take your consequences. You pay your fine. You take your slap on the wrist, and you don't do it again. I mean, I don't see anybody can argue with that and say, "Oh, you're snitching on people. You're snitching on your own fans." Well, they shouldn't have fucking done it in the first place, should they? So,
and half of them are putting it up on Instagram anyway.
They're on camera. They're on it. They're wearing gear from the supporters groups. I mean, you're not exactly incognito here. You're identifiable. So you take your punishment and you learn from it and you move on to the next game and you adapt and you adjust within the laws and within the rules.
Yeah.
And hopefully you build up good faith with the club and with the powers that be, and you start to get in, because I want to see. I like you, Blayne. I went back to a League of Ireland game last year, went to see Shelbourne at Talca Park. They scored within 60 seconds and there was flares ripped right in front of us and the place was going off, and I was loving every second of it. So give me flares. But they're not allowed. So until that happens, and it never will, you just have to play by the rules if you don't want these sort of incidents to keep coming up. So the problem isn't actually nanny state, wokeism, whatever bollocks labels you want to put on it. It's breaking the rules. Just abide by the rules and you'll be fine. And there are plenty of cool things you can do within the rules, which would be my point. What can you do within the laws to stop these negative headlines? Because we don't need it. We don't. No. And
some of the comments were great.
They're Glory fans. Haven't they been punished enough?
Yeah, been punished enough.
All that sort of stuff is great. But we do need these. And James made the point earlier about the next generation and all. We do need these kids at games. So I'm not saying punish them and stick them behind bars and turn them away from games and never let them into the ground again. That would be extreme. But they do need to understand that their actions are one, illegal, and two, causing more problems for the other people who are trying to get things going. Because the shed has actually been really full and good relative to the shit we've seen on the pitch.
Someone was saying, and I've noticed it too, because I think you posted a photo saying it looks very, very empty with 10 minutes to go. Yeah. I've noticed that as well, but someone piped up and said, look, it takes forever to get into the shed. Well, let me tell you, when you're bringing flares to the game, it's going to take even longer now.
Yeah, well, I was with Jackson, Ben Smith and Matt Olsen. We were up the top at the media section, and we were looking down and we were looking at our watches at 6:35 going, where is everybody? The place was dead. Grim. And then 5 minutes into the game, it was full.
Yeah.
So there's definitely an issue, and I think the gates only opened at 5:45 as well.
An hour before.
Yeah, an hour before kickoff. And I get that they don't want to pay staff extra and all of that. So this is going to cause more problems and take more time for people to get in. And we've got a few home games coming up, and it'd be good to get as many in as possible.
Get there early, guys. Get there as early as you can. Create that atmosphere, because that was the thing once upon a time, and you guys probably weren't here, but the NSL, people were there an hour before the game. There was things going on, and people would be packing to try and get to their favourite spot and everything else like that.
Well,
And I understand the demand's not the same now, but it was that build-up of atmosphere on match day. You'd hear it walking a mile away.
And that's the thing for younger fans like myself, if we didn't get to experience that, and it's something that we want to experience moving forward.
Yep.
And I'm all for encouraging the younger generation groups, but I do think they're also lacking a little bit of guidance. That's probably a big thing. They're just going and doing it. And it's not about having parents telling them what to do. It's more so, showing them the ropes and let them know how it operates, whether that's from within the club or whether that's from the other supporter groups, the fan representative group. Maybe they should be a little bit closer to them. I don't know what their ties or links are. But if we want these people to be the next group in 5-10 years' time, we want them to be set up for success really as active supporters, because without it, the atmosphere is shit without them. So keep them coming.
Boys, keep the uglies going. Did you have an ugly there, James?
Just Wellington against City. I'll keep it brief, but 21 shots to 1. I like Italiano as a coach. I like how Wellington play, but they were garbage. They were shocking for me. So very disappointing. And I know they want to try and play out from the back, but there were multiple times where City and Neil mentioned it before, the way in which City press. Yeah. And again, they have a young team. So what's Glory's excuse for not being able to apply and deal and actually execute a proper high press too often? And we'll touch about it when we get onto the game. But when we press, there's too many outlets for players. Meanwhile, when City did it, you could literally see the Wellington guys who are very good at building the ball out from the back going, what do I do from here? So a very good performance from Melbourne City, but from Wellington, it was pretty ugly.
Neil?
I asked David Zrilic about it after the game. That substitution at the end, bringing on Hamzaoui as a left winger, I had that sinking feeling, not necessarily because of the player, just because of he's a left back, and it really is just such a negative approach to defending a lead, and especially if you're going to bring him on as a defender and play 5 at the back, cool. But playing a defender higher up the pitch
to hold the ball up
means that he's naturally inclined to drop deeper and deeper and deeper. And I asked him, was that wise when Western United's right back scored the equaliser? That right back is not in that position if it's, and who I thought they should have brought in was an Asmo. Higher up the pitch, and Asmo stays higher. Russell can't commit, has to stay back with an Asmo. He's not in the position, and I get that the cross was defended terribly as well, but that Western United player isn't stood on the back post if a left back isn't playing left wing. And I just thought that was it was a real inviting. If I was Western United and I saw that coming on as a left winger, I would have been brilliant. Let's get our right back forward, because he's naturally as a defender going to drop deeper and deeper. That's his positional sense. He's not a left winger, and it was just I just felt it was an unnecessary tweak. And look, Dave Zrilic said afterwards, hindsight is great and you can say anything in hindsight, and you can. It could have been the masterstroke, but it wasn't. So you can only look at the evidence provided, and the evidence provided is that it was a disaster. So just wasn't a fan of that tactical switch. It invited too much pressure.
A bit off social media, mate. Good, bad, uglies.
Socials have been flying lately. People have been busy over the Christmas period, interacting, abusing some of the messages. Goods. Pearman had a great debut. The shed was pretty loud. Other goods, the amount of effort the lads put in. Relatively solid performance against Western. Pearman, best he played all season. Ollie Sale, yes, I did get described. Ben described me as the president of the Ollie Sale fan club. I said I'm the honorary member, not president. But I was very, very happy to see him play well, because I think he's a very good goalkeeper. And it would have been 2 or 3-0 after 20 minutes if it wasn't for him, and some really good saves there. So a little bit of redemption, I think, for Ollie on the tweet machine. Christmas miracle beating Brisbane and getting our first win of the season. We figured out how to put the ball in the back of the net at home. That was good, and almost beat a decent team. Some of the bads: late loss to Western United, capitulation at the end of the game. The Hamzaoui sub was bad. The last 2 minutes were bad. Left back is a problem. Ran out of legs. Hamzaoui needs a mutual termination. David Williams injury, 100% agree with that. That was rough. Abysmal against MacArthur. Giving up the lead twice. And then Uglies having the best goal in the A-League according to Stajic, scored with the last kick of the game in front of the shed. There are great goals when it happens to someone else. Left back troubles continue. The inevitable police crackdown after this dumb shit related to the Flares. Ugly football department as a whole. We might talk about Stan's interview last week as well. Ugly, Stan the man. Ugly is the players that we might grab in January because they're probably not going to be good. That's my concern as well. Ugly the fire. Ugly having to watch Thurgate and the rest of the Western United team celebrate in front of the bay when the third went in, and Willow's ACL. So yeah, lots in there. Similar thoughts to ourselves. So hopefully we've hit the right mark.
Well, there we go. We'll wrap things up there for that segment, boys. We'll go to a break. We'll come back out the other side with more. You're on the Far Post Perth Podcast.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Tired of the same old cookie-cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes is committed to unique designs, local personalised service and quality workmanship. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Julbich at the helm, you'll know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the difference with Trio Homes. Visit triohomes.com.au.
Welcome back to the Far Post Perth Podcast. Blayne Treadgold, James Renton and Neil Sherwin. First one of the year. So, boys, there's a few games to get through. Well, let's go back. We'll have to rewind the memory bank. I've had a few beers since that stage. So we'll go back to MacArthur. It was a 3-0 loss at home. I've got to admit, I called this one for Sport FM. It was super difficult, James, to try and find any kind of positives in this match. It was reminiscent of what we saw a previous home game against Newcastle, if you can remember that one as well. But what can you remember, mate? What was any standouts from this particular fixture?
I hated it.
Yep.
15 minutes, I thought we looked good. Then the Williams injury totally changed the game, and we did not find the way to throw a punch. Defensively, garbage. And for me, I can only speak on my behalf, but for me, that was another dent in my backing and belief in David Drulich being and also Stan Lazaridis being the two guys to lead the club moving forward to not only get us into a competitive state, but also get us out of the crap that we're in. Because the way in which we perform, we're lucky that Brisbane are just as bad, if not worse than us, and that performance was terrible.
I'm going to pick you up on that. It seems like, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it seems like David Drulich, Stan Lazaridis aren't going anywhere at this stage.
No.
So is it time that we just back them? Is that the stage that we're at the moment?
Given that there's not going to be a change in the foreseeable future, then yes, but I can't say that I'm convinced that they are the ones to move us forward in the sense of stand with the way in which we're looking to do our recruitment and the squad composition. Does it even fit the way David wants to play? And then David as a coach, he obviously has some very good ideas, but is it a case of right coach, wrong time? So, the two games that we saw in MacArthur and Western United, there were elements of decent coaching, particularly in the Western game, but there were also some elements on David's end where there were some very questionable moments, particularly the Hamzawi sub. And I was saying that because I was sitting a few rows behind David, and we could see as Hamzawi came on, there was, and I'm sure you guys would have seen it as well, there was visible confusion between Zach Lizalewski and Anas Hamzawi. And maybe it's because I'm feeling a little bit defeated after what was promised leading into the season, but I need to see something compelling for me to say that both David and Stan are the ones to lead this club moving forward.
Neil, this club has had a real issue, and part of the criticism around this issue is every time there's a problem, the solution is always to sack the coach. it's happened more often than not in terms of, I think it's happened to every coach just about so far. Is it time to buck that trend, or is this still the way to go about things until you find the right coach?
I've from the outset, I was a believer in giving half a season to see, especially given new owners, new football department, load of new players. Give it half a season and look for some signs. I wasn't expecting Glory to make finals. Never mind anything else. I didn't think they'd get near finals this year. And that was just being realistic based on everything that we knew coming into the year, plus other clubs. So my bar was low. So to fall below that bar, you're doing pretty badly. To be honest, I'm not looking to win every game. I'm happy to lose every game by a goal. My issue is these games where you're completely uncompetitive and you're just not displaying signs of a philosophy. Like Stan Lazaridis was asked, well, what is this culture you're building? What are you working towards? That's to me the issue, that David Zrilic came in as a particular type of coach to coach in a particular way and blew it all up after a month. So if he's not coaching the way he knows, what is he coaching to? What are we working towards here? Players, I think, James, you made a good point around the Caicedo situation. If you want to play as a high-tempo pressing team, why do you knowingly sign a luxury player like Caicedo? He's obviously not going to fit the philosophy, and that's exactly how it played out. I do have some sympathy with the Kanga situation in the sense of they were burned on a player and needed a stopgap at short notice. So I actually don't mind the Kanga signing for that reason, knowing the information that we know now. But the Caicedo one is inexcusable. If you're doing your recruitment for a coach who plays a high-pressing, high-tempo system that requires intense work rate, and you bring in a guy who doesn't look like he wants to run even when he's got the ball, how's the left hand talking to the right hand there? So they're the things that I take issue with, that makes me think that it's idiots running the asylum. And that's a big thing for me. Some of the young players have been okay. I think that there is potential there, but they haven't got the right guidance around them. I think some of the experienced players that have come in, both returning and new that you would expect better from, have been a disappointment. I think Pennington is probably the standout in terms of he's been very, very good, but it's a one-man band in midfield at times and he's getting completely overrun. So he's been a standout for me and been very, very good. In terms of the coaching, though, I actually feel a little bit of sympathy for Zrilic, just watching how many times they turn the ball over so cheaply in transition moments. So many goals and chances come from a square ball into the middle of the park that is just, it's you don't even have to fight to win it back. And that to me is a massive, massive fundamental flaw, that no matter what system you want to play, if your players can't pass a square ball 10 yards, you're fucked.
Yeah, but David did an interview with Sydney FC in the A-Leagues when he went back to Sydney, and he said, if I'm recalling this correctly, I'm happy to be corrected if that's wrong, but he said at Leipzig that initially there was a bigger focus on what you do when you don't have the ball and the two transition moments, the moment you win it and the moment you don't have it. And those sides have never really been known for their ability to dominate possession or control the games. It's always been very up and down, high tempo, and relying on those counter-pressing moments. Yet when we have the ball, it's like when we're in settled possession, we just lack so many ideas. And when we actually try something, like obviously the square balls, that's been a problem. But there was one moment where we showed a little bit of intuition, a little bit of creativity. And obviously me being sitting behind Dave, I could hear what he was trying to say to some of the players. And there was a moment in the first half where Zach Lizalewski made the run in behind because Kwa Ngo moved centrally, and it worked. The long ball was put over the top, and then the cross from Lizalewski just missed Adam Taggart. But we've not seen in settled possession anywhere near the types of patterns of play that you'd be expecting, or any sort of know-how. We're very passive, and on the ball, it's just...
You've just highlighted that exact moment, because I was sitting with Jackson and we were watching the game, and the amount of times that Lizalewski was in that position, completely free at left back for a switch of play, and it never came. Tommy Murchell just would not turn out onto his left side. Every time the ball came across, he was playing left side of his centre backs. He would play to Labib, or he would play back to the goalkeeper. He would never turn left, and the ball would never go left. It was like they were playing in 2/3 of the pitch. Every time Labib got the ball, he wouldn't bypass Murchell. Whether that's a confidence thing, that he was afraid of playing missing a player and going
He
to
can
the
spot
left
a pass though, Labib.
But if the first goal doesn't happen unless it's Labib playing that ball to Pearman, who does exceptionally well to turn and on his weak foot, play the ball over to Taggart.
But that moment where Lizalowski got in behind and put that cross in, that was on at least 5, 6, 7 times in the first
we spotted
half.
him in front of us.
And they would never, ever go to that side. I was fuming.
David, it was because it was David that said to Kwai, he said at one point, he said, you've got to move inside. And then he said to Zach, all right, you go. And then at one point, Pennington gets his head up. And then because he's a good player, he can play the ball.
You don't even need, and it was an unbelievable pass from Pennington away, and it was amazing. The cross was great as well. It was about a yard over hit. But you don't even need it to be from that run. Lizalowski can stay at left back and still receive that ball in a safe position because there was no hard press on that right side from Western United. I can't remember who was playing on the right side, but he was tucking in as a
Nazarene?
Yeah, I think it was
Nazarene was in front of his first half.
And he was tucking in very narrow, and he was applying pressure to Pennington and to the other midfielders and leaving that space, whereas Risdon on the other side actually did have a marker. And they kept going right, and they kept going right,
Denzaki rinsed Risdon a fair few times.
He did.
We have from the outside, we don't look to have any sort of real plan or strategy when we have the ball. Meanwhile, when Western had the ball, and it was mentioned by Eric Partzler a number of times on commentary, the way in which they're just crisp and they know where to move. And I can understand when you have so much chopping and changing within the team. Like I found this stat bizarre. We had 25 changes to the starting 11 over the 11 games that we've had, using a total of 28 players. So obviously trying to build cohesion and consistency is not easy. But even still, I would expect for a system like Dave's, which needs every single player to believe and back in it, the fact that when we are in possession and in settled possession, we're so passive. We don't know how we're going to break teams down. We can't play through the lines.
They don't. No, they don't.
So it's frustrating to watch.
The tone was set from kickoff, right? The kickoff went back to Risdon and he just pumped it. He just pumped it, sent it long. And what we were noticing where we were sitting as well is that he was 3-4 passes along the back, not to the left back, 3-4 passes, and then run out of ideas and just pump it and see if tags will run to the channels. And then most of the time it was over hit to the goalkeeper. And then other times it was a free header because you're playing it in those channels for like Kwa and Go, who's 5 foot.
Yeah.
And it's easy. So it's like they play 3 or 4 passes, get impatient and pump it. And there's no playing through, to your point. And I thought Newcastle did it really well with Timmins and a couple of others, was the triangles around the centre circle and bouncing it and moving. Glory don't bounce and move. They play a pass and they're static.
But why can Newcastle do that with the completely inferior team to us and we can't? That's why I also criticise Dave, because it's like we have, and even going on to the latter part of the game, how much more experience do you need to hold out a 2-1 lead? 66 minutes, we had Brandon O'Neill, you had Ollie Sale, Merchler, Risdon, Taggart. You had so many experienced guys on the pitch, yet we didn't seem to understand, even from that point, our plan. Are we going to go for the attack, or to go for the third, or are we going to look to defend and park the bus?
Jordan Lauton's goal was unbelievable. But look where he scored from and look how closely he was marked.
Or
nobody.
Who was his marker in that situation?
Well, he ran
was
from
it
the middle of
Michela?
the park. He ran from the middle of the park. He ran from a good 20, 30
but
yards away.
The
no
other
one tracked the run, basically.
But even still, touching on to that point again, who kept making runs throughout the entire game from deep positions, and we didn't pick him up for 2 of the goals? Angus Thurgate made a deep run for the first goal. Pennington's been superb pretty much all season, but fell asleep there. And then for the third one, it was a deep run from Thurgate, gets to the right wing, no one's marking him, and then both Zach and Anas are too slow to close him. And it's like this attention to detail, this focus,
Stopping
this
the
concentration.
Cross has been a big issue.
We don't have it. And I'm like, well, how long do we need to get to a point where we can have 95 minutes of concentration, discipline, hard work? And even Stan said that in his interview, we want to have workmen-like, hard-working players. And I'm like, well, you can't just stop after 90 minutes. Whether we've got the best or the worst team, or we're playing the best or the worst team, that should have been 3 points for us.
I wanted to bring up a moment, and you mentioned Pennington there deep in that second half, and he kind of lunged for one and lunged for another, and the ball went out that far eastern side, and there was a moment in the crowd. It was probably one of the loudest moments of the match, I felt, where the crowd just really appreciated hard work that was done, and it was probably less than 5 seconds. And you can probably pinpoint it. I'll have to go back and have a look at the exact time.
I remember. Yeah.
And the applause was...
But this is the thing. Go back to the Brisbane Roar game last year. There's a moment where both Adam Taggart and G. Colley were harassing Jay O'Shea. And it was this big surge press that we were expecting to see with Dave Zrillich. And the crowd, I hadn't heard HBF that loud in years when that press action happened where they all surged, ball went out, and the crowd just went up.
Yeah.
I was expecting with Dave's system, okay, you can get it right, you can get it wrong with so much turnover in the squad, but where's that surge press that we somewhat saw in the Australia Cup? We haven't seen it really applied at all in this season, and it's like the players are too hesitant or they don't know what to do, they don't know the right triggers, the whole press itself just seems so easy. Like West United, the amount of outballs that they had to get through the press, I think, how early was it when Noah Botic had that chance against Ollie Sale? Was it the first minute?
Yeah.
I was walking to my seat and I saw, here comes Botic through on goal, 1 minute, and that was from a pressing situation, if I'm not wrong. So I'd expect a bit more from this point in the season.
That was a through ball, I think.
It wasn't a lovely little flick, took a bit out of the game.
Botic, Grimaldi, Danzaki all had runs in behind, through balls.
Straight through the guts.
Through the guts. That can't, sorry, for me, that can't be happening.
Boys, before we move on to other things, big shout out to Jalen Pearman.
He was outstanding.
He was brilliant. That was one of the best debuts I think we've seen at HBF Park for a long time. The question is, for me, is that people have called for him for a long time, as well as other players. Youth international. Why has it taken this long? That would be my question.
Well, we asked that question, and apparently it's because the way in which we blooded in the young guys so quickly, we didn't want to dent his confidence. But apparently Jalen had been training well, and apparently he's also got a pretty good relationship with Adam Taggart, and you could tell. Because the way in which Jalen and Adam were working in relation to each other.
Celebrated together and everything. Yep.
Well, Adam literally pointed straight to Jalen and said, mate, that's your goal. For as much as I whacked it in, that's your goal. And he was outstanding for me. So he can hold his head high.
Yeah, beautiful stuff there. A few other things happening at the Glory. Let's talk a little bit about incomings, outgoings. First of all, congratulations to Robbie Cook signing for Leeds United. He'll head over and you can shut your mouth. He's going to one of the greatest football teams in the world. He'll end up in the Leeds Academy, but the way that Melia is playing at the moment for Leeds, he might be, someone said that he might be fast-tracked. But we did put something out on the social media across the week. Glory players that have also, I stipulated on the books of both Glory and Leeds United. So we've got Andy Keogh, Neil Kilkenny, Brian Dean, Shane Lowry. Who else have we got? Fowler, Miller, Fox, Hay, Burns. And I think I'm missing one in that list. I can't think who it is, but I think we worked out it was about 11 altogether. So, Danny Milosevic, that is the other one. Yeah, that
I did tell you that someone would come back with lads who were on trial once when they were 13 if you didn't clarify, and that's exactly what happened. So, yeah.
No, very good. So I was thinking that might be somewhat of a record between an Aleague club and
you want it to be a record.
Well, maybe it is. Yeah. That's why I support two of the greatest football teams in the world, Neil. Incomings, outgoings, boys. James, let you take this away. These murmurings coming out, particularly of Japan, mate. Take it away.
Kuya Okamoto, 32-year-old Japanese right back / right wing back.
We're just going to clarify. This has been reported by Sponichi.co.jp, a website I don't know too much about.
I think it was their official club website.
Okay,
from memory.
Yep. Cool.
But they've basically confirmed that he's gone. Played for a club called Shonan Belmare in the J League. I think he's played just under 200 games.
What are they? Div 1?
Yeah, first league in Japan.
Yep.
I think he's played under 17s for Japan as well.
Okay.
From memory. This is a signing I'm a little bit confused by, if this is to happen. But it most likely is, by the looks of things, by the reports, it probably will happen. He basically plays in the same areas that we already have cover in, whether it be right back or right wing. You've got Risden, Carluccio, maybe Osler could do that role still a little bit. So I'll be intrigued to see what the rationale is behind it, and obviously which signings we see from then on in. But it'll be very intriguing, and it's very important, more importantly, that we get these additions right, because we cannot afford to have another dull window where nothing happens or not what we wanted happens.
And there was talk about maybe a couple more.
Yeah, there's some rumours that are flying about. I'm not too sure how valid or accurate they are, but it does seem as though, based on Stan Lazaridis' interview, also that we will be looking to bring in at least 3 to 4 players in this upcoming window.
Neil, what's on the New Year's wish list, do you feel?
Wins?
Yeah, but in terms of personnel.
Sorry, too general there.
Yeah, far too
general there. I don't know. I don't know. I'm.
Where do you start?
Look, whatever I suggest is probably the opposite of what they're thinking. So, I think they need more legs for me.
Yep.
They need a bit more mobility around the pitch, and probably some creativity in wide areas, because as much as people are happy with having young players and like the guys that are out there, I mean, Jared Carluccio's goal, must mention from the weekend, was a great goal, but we're just not getting many goals and assists from wide areas. There's not, the service to Taggart is pretty poor in that regard. So I would like to see a winger who can actually contribute more than Caicedo did, for example. And I'd like to see some legs in the middle of the park in particular, because a lot of the problems are stemming from being overrun in midfield, particularly in the second half of games. So that's a big one for me. If I had a wish list, it'd be, can you bring in 11 players? But I think if you're going with three or four, look, I'm just skeptical about the type of players you can sign in January. What sort of quality you're going to pick up? Lads off the street who haven't played for 12 months? Or
how long are the deals also?
Well, people that come in from clubs that are obviously not wanted. Like, what are they going to be able to add to us?
We were saying off air, if you have a bit of a look at particularly the Australian players, there's quite a few that are without clubs, but they're probably without clubs for a reason there, James.
Well, there's a few that are available that I'd be looking at least in terms of currently available Aussies in Josh Laws and Lachie Wales. I mean, they might not be everyone's cup of tea in terms of a wow signing, but I think in terms of adding more steel to the back line, and then someone like Wales with his speed in behind, because I'd also make the comment as well, we're not that quick of a team. Last season, I felt we could transition much better than we could this season, and I don't think we have that threat of speed in behind. And I think someone like Wales with his work rate, but also his relationship with Josh Risdon, I think would be a very smart signing if we could do it.
I think Miliusnic might have been brought in for that reason, given his pace, but
hasn't worked.
We haven't seen him. I know he's back in training, but how far are we into the season?
Hamstrings like a dried out lucky band. Yeah.
So it definitely is mobility and pace around the team. And I think that the midfield is just, it's like a sieve. Very, very.
I guess another one that's maybe on the radar, and there's been a little bit of talk around this, is goalkeeping stocks. And does someone like a Mark Birighetti, who's back in town, come back into this side?
Wouldn't say no.
Probably does. He probably does.
But obviously, what that means, that does Sale go? Is that where we're looking?
Probably.
So you have Cook and Birighetti instead of Cook and Sale. You obviously can't see, even if Robbie Cook goes, you can't see all three of them.
Yeah.
There.
Well, it'd be harsh to move on Sale in some people's eyes, particularly after the game that he had at least against Western. But for me, I've been pretty sceptical of Sale's performances over the years.
A couple of drops of rain doesn't make a winter.
Yeah, and I think someone like Birighetti, I wouldn't say no. I would very much consider taking him if we could.
Yep. All right, we'll see how that looks. James, I'm going to let you take it away, mate. A little bit on the Perth Glory women.
Yeah, for me, they had been the highlight of the two teams up until this point, but I just felt that their last two games in particular were quite disappointing. Obviously, with the Mariners game, with the way in which they conceded that goal towards the end, was almost like watching the men's team play with some of the comedy errors that we've seen there. But in this game, I think we only had one shot on target all game, which was in the 85th minute with Lawler, which went straight to the keeper. I felt Wellington adjusted to the conditions quicker. Grace Jarley was outstanding, scored a very good goal from outside the box. And probably without Casey Dumont, that got the margin could have been a bit bigger than 2. The defending for the second goal, losing the movement of the striker. Good header, but yeah, they've hit a bit of a roadblock, to say the least.
The loss of Kelly Brown seems to have been a big one.
McKenna, I think she's out as well.
Yep. But shout out to local girls, Tanika Lala, and also Ella Lincoln. Pretty good little accolade for Ella Lincoln becoming the 1,000th A-League player to play A-League women's football. So that's cool. And fantastic to see the local talent coming through. This is something that we need, but we also need it topped up with overseas talent as well. Yeah, of course.
But it's a big opportunity for them coming up against Sydney FC, though. I mean, Sydney are not in their best space, but they've got to get the win. Yep. They've got to get the job done, and then they've got another tough game. I think it's against Melbourne Victory away. I could be wrong, but they've got 2 games where they're capable of showing that improvement. They've shown something for me this season to build on. And hopefully they can get back on track soon.
All right, so Perth Glory men away tomorrow night, being Wednesday, or depends on where you're listening to this. Tough place to go, Neil, and a tough team to play against.
Very tough place to go. Not really what you want. Play in Perth on Friday, play in Sydney on Wednesday, and come back to Perth for Saturday. Especially given, I don't know, we're talking about the Sydney game, but Auckland won't have played a game in that time. Yeah, they'll be fresh, and they'll
probably be here before Glory.
A few days before at least.
So, it makes it tough. It's going to be a tough game, and I did again ask David Zrilich after the game about rotation, right? Because players want to play games. They'd rather play games than train. But at A-League level, 4 games in 12 days or whatever it is with the travel and whatnot, it takes its toll, especially when you've shipped out 5 players already and not brought in anybody. So, brought in Merchel, I suppose, but you've gone down in your numbers rather than up as you get to this busy period. So, and obviously losing David Williams, right? 5 players gone plus David Williams' injury. That's 6 senior players you're down from your squad. So, it's going to be a challenge for them. And how many changes he makes from the weekend will be interesting, because you also want to James's point earlier about the amount of players that have been used, you want to start establishing that continuity. We're way into the season now.
What's the preferred starting 11?
You can't be rotating your 11 every game. And I do expect there to be 1 or 2 changes, maybe some fresh legs, maybe the likes of Blair gets a start. Carluccio comes into the team from the start instead of Kwan Go, for example.
Yep.
Some of your younger players, maybe you have a change at left back again. Maybe Brandon O'Neill comes in for Gomulka, for example, something like that. But you want to start keeping your spine and probably 7 of your team at least starting every week now, 7 to 8, and only changing as needed. So
all right.
If you haven't figured that out by now, though,
that's true.
But then, sorry, and I know just the last thing on that is, if you start now to get a settled team, and then in 2 weeks' time you've brought in 4 players, you really go back to the start again, don't you? How do you find your best team?
Yep. Boys, we'll go to a break. We'll come back at the other side. We'll look ahead to a pretty chaotic couple of weeks of football back after this on the Far Post Perth Podcast.
Tired of the same old cookie cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes is committed to unique designs, local personalised service and quality workmanship. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Julbich at the helm, you'll know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the difference with Trio Homes. Visit triohomes.com.au.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Final part of the Far Post Perth podcast. Big thank you to ID Athletic and also Trio Homes. Let's look ahead to the weekend, gentlemen, because we do have pretty much a full bill starting Friday night. Or coming this weekend. Of course, we'll have the game on Wednesday night for the Glory, but starting on Friday night, Melbourne Victory against Western United. James, thoughts?
I think Melbourne Victory need to get a win sometime soon. I mean, obviously the departure of Patrick Isnorbo probably affected them a little bit more than anticipated. I don't think they've had a win since Arthur Dills has been their interim manager just yet. West United obviously have been decent the last few weeks, but I thought they were pretty average today against Melbourne City, so I'm anticipating Melbourne victory to get things on the right track and beat Western.
Neil, thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, West United playing games in pretty quick succession. You know, Perth playing today, and then this one. So I think victory should win that game.
Yeah, victory for me in that one. Saturday, this is going to be a ripper of a Saturday. 4 games back-to-back, starting off with Wellington, Adelaide, James.
Adelaide for me.
Even in New Zealand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because...
They lost their way a little bit, Wellington, haven't they?
Yeah, and if they lose Scott Wootton, who's been rumoured to head off to Japan, that's going to be a big blow for them. So they need to get some good reinforcements in January, but I think Adelaide, they're on a roll, and I think they'll be too good for Wellington.
I'm curious if someone like Ollie Sale goes back to Wellington, even if he's just there to put a little bit of pressure on Justin Oluwaemi, because he has... I don't know if it's complacency. I'm not sure, but I feel that he should be doing a lot better than maybe he has.
Is Ollie Sale going to work in a system that builds out from the back when Ollie, whenever he gets the ball, just pumps it like 50, 60 metres?
You know, you've just reminded me of something, and I'm going to go back to where we were before. What I did notice at the weekend, and I mentioned it, is that Glory took every goal kick long.
Yeah,
every kick out was long. They didn't go midfielder stand on the edge of the box, fullbacks in the corners, centre backs in the 6-yard box, which they had been doing for weeks and weeks and weeks. They didn't even consider it. Every goal kick was Sale, punt it, and they go, fuck when he shanked it. and that was the whole game, was just long goal kicks.
Was that him or you?
No, he was throwing his eyes.
In fairness to them, Western are one of the best pressing teams in the comp.
No, it was just an interesting adjustment, and I probably should have asked it after the game, because that little tweaks like that fascinate me, sadly.
Thoughts on the result, Neil? Wellington, Adelaide?
What game are we talking about? Oh, yeah, Adelaide. Adelaide are in such good form at the moment. And yeah, they're a tough beat.
Okay, I'm going to pick a draw in that one. I think Wellington can get something out of it at home. Melbourne City, Brisbane.
Should be a comfortable win for City.
You think so?
I would think so, but it depends. Is Sakovic going? And I know we're probably going to ask this question every week for the next probably 3 years until he eventually leaves, because he's got friends in high places. But if they were to sack him this week, it could be one of those new manager bounce games that you and the playing group is pretty bad, but you get rid of the coach and you bring in an interim, and then all of a sudden they play a blinder. You're right. Yeah. It's always a tough game to play against a side that's just sacked their manager, because the players have a little bit of different motivation. So a potential trap game, I think it's what it's called, for Melbourne City, depending on what happens. Otherwise, they should beat them 5-0.
Third game on Saturday is Sydney FC against Central Coast. Of course, Sydney FC having to back it up from the Wednesday night, as a lot of teams will, but they have got back-to-back home games. A little bit out of Central Coast before I move on. Regat reporting that the CEO of the Central Coast Mariners has departed, and also talk about a new owner coming in. So I'm not sure if we can put 2 and 2 together in that, but thoughts on the game?
I think it'll be a draw.
Okay.
Sydney are just not consistent enough for me. I think they'll comfortably sweep aside Perth, but I don't think they'll be able to back it up.
Neil?
Yeah, I don't think the Mariners are very good, but I think a draw, just for that reason, that Sydney struggled against the Jets at the weekend. Okay, no, I'm going to pick Sydney. I think they're going to be far too comfortable there. Saturday, Perth v Auckland, a 4th game out of 4 on Saturday night. We are back, boys, at HBF Park.
Yeah, I think Auckland have got this pretty comfortably. I would say I would love to be proven wrong and have egg on my face, but with Auckland having those extra few days to acclimatise while we've got to fly back on the Thursday and then train Friday, play Saturday, I think it's going to be a bit too much of an ask for us to get a result against Auckland.
What's the key if Perth was to get something out of this, Neil, do you feel?
Score some goals.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
Score and don't concede.
But
is it as simple as that?
I'm saying because Auckland, they've shipped some goals recently, right? But they had that run at the start of just not conceding, and Glory have not been able to score. So I think that's the struggle. I just don't think Glory, even though they scored 2 at the weekend, are still creating enough chances to be consistently scoring goals. I still worry about where the next goal is coming from, as much as I did enjoy the two at the weekend. So it is that simple. And look, Auckland have not scored that many. Really, they're not there for where they are top of the ladder. They're not blowing teams off the park, but they're just very solid
professional
throughout. They know how to they know how to hold the lead.
Ooh.
So that's probably where I'd be looking at. Yeah, that they're going to be really strong, and I just think they're a good side, well drilled, well they got a good coach, proven, who knows what it takes to come to Perth. Done plenty of these trips before, so I'm going to phase them. To James' point, they're going to have a few extra days probably here, nice and early. They'll be ready. They won't be flying in, half cool.
Hopefully it's about 45 degrees at 7 o'clock at night.
Inshallah.
Just give the Kiwis a little bit of a scorcher. Last game on that particular weekend is Newcastle v Macarthur.
Bulls. Yeah, they should bounce back.
I would have said comfortably up until how many minutes was it in yesterday's game? The 85th minute.
Oh yeah, a bit of deja vu.
Great touch by Jovanovic.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, but Macarthur, I was quite smug in the 85th minute, thinking, I said Macarthur were going to finish in the top one or two, and they were in second in the live ladder, and then now Adelaide are second. So they're just a little bit. They've had that problem where earlier in the season, back-to-back games, they were 1-0 up and lost. And they were the same in that. So they have a bit of a soft belly at times. So I will say that a draw, because the Jets had a good result against Sydney.
Okay. Boys, let's have a bit of a look at the A-League W very, very quickly before we wrap things up. There is games all over the shop this week. Wednesday, Newcastle v Adelaide. Wednesday, Brisbane v Melbourne Victory. Thursday, Western Sydney v Wellington. Friday, at the Samcur Football Centre will be Perth Glory v Sydney FC, and then
West United.
Then we can go to Western United next Tuesday for the Glory Girls. So
is that a double header?
No. Perth men are at home next Tuesday, and the girls are away next Tuesday.
Gotcha. So play same day.
Same day. So that's the way it looks. It's quite confusing at the moment. I'll keep wanting to put these fixture graphics up for round by round, and they're absolutely all over the shop. So
busy time of year for games.
Absolutely. To finish up, nonsense predictions. James, what do we got?
Oh, it's a good question, actually. Nonsense predictions for the week.
All right, I'm going to tell you mine.
Go on.
I'm going to tell you mine. Perth Glory women to get a win Friday night against Sydney FC.
That's a nonsense prediction.
That can't be nonsense.
It's not really a nonsense prediction, but it's a prediction nonetheless. I think I think they deserve a win at home. Against Sydney FC, who's been struggling a little bit.
Yeah, I think Auckland make a big statement at Perth.
What are we talking? Double figures?
Nah, 4-0.
4-0?
Yeah.
What, just like every other team this year?
No, but just like
Newcastle Jets won 4-0 as well.
Yeah, but it'll be in the manner in which they do it. It'll just be control from start to finish.
4-0 by 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Neil?
I think slightly opposite. I think they'll still lose. So I think Glory will lose all three men's games, but they'll do it bravely. As in, they'll lose by the
honourable loss.
Honourable loss. The odd goal here or there. There'll be improved performances. It will look a little bit better, but ultimately they'll get no reward. And I say that hoping that they win every game, because I'll be there on.
Please
and
do.
we should also mention the ticket promotion.
Oh yes,
yes, Neil. 2 games.
We've got a little bit of a reduction.
2 games for look. I blame the phrasing. 2 games for $50. There you go. Is the
yeah. So it works out to be 25. And so the way that it was explained to me, instead of $32.50 each, you can get into both games for $25 each. So it's $50 for both games.
Both games. That's Saturday night and Tuesday night.
And Tuesday night.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be at both of them. It's great to have games in quick succession. We go long periods of time without football here. Even during the season, we had a month without a home game.
Yep.
Now I've got 3 in the space of 12 days, 2 in the space of 4 days. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there, and I'm hoping that they win. I just don't see which team they can turn over.
Western Sydney for me.
After playing Auckland on Saturday. If they do get a pumping against Auckland on Saturday.
Well, Stadge will be back, and I think Western Sydney are vulnerable enough for me.
I think they're the one, yes, but I also think they're also pretty decent relative.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap things up there, boys. Big thank you to you, Mr. Sherwin, Mr. Renton. Big thank you to, of course, ID Athletic. Make sure you get your kits ready for 2025, idathletic.com. And a big thank you, as always, to Trio Homes. If you're looking to redesign, renovate, or for any new builds, make sure you get in touch with Dino and the team at triohomes.com.au. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, all over Blue Sky. We're absolutely everywhere at the moment. And don't forget, give us a review and a follow, all on the Spotify, Apple, and now on YouTube Music. Until next time, this has been the Far Post Perth Podcast.